Welcome to Yankee Moto. Today we're going to change the rear brake pads on our 1999 Speed Triple. It also should work for 2000 and 2001. Let's get started. You don't need any specialized tools, but if you do have a rear stand, it'll give you the edge. Go for it. If you do have a rear stand, go ahead and use it. As you can see, you only have two bolts that are holding the brake caliper to the bracket and the rotor. Just take those out. Once you have the two bolts off, the caliper should just come off with a little bit of a jiggle. Voila. Then just bring it out to the side so you can work on it freely. Okay, so now that we have the brake caliper out and away from the motorbike where we can work on it, you can see that the caliper has two pistons, here and here. So while the old brake pads are still on, what we want to do is we want to push them back inside the reservoir, and that way it'll give us room for when we put the new pads on, so we can get that caliper back onto the rotor. Okay, now that you have the inside brake pad backed all the way up against the faceplate, or the pistons all the way back as far as they can go, what we can do now is we're going to take out these two retaining bolts. To take out these two retaining bolts, you just need to get yourself a 5mm Allen wrench. And you're going to take these bolts all the way out. Just get a good grip on it. Okay, once you have both of these bolts threaded all the way out, you're just going to turn this to the front side. Just take a 3mm Allen wrench and poke the bolts out. Now the pad should just come right out. Take note of how you're taking the old brake pads out, because you're just going to do the reverse process when you put this back in. This inside pad will just come right out. This other pad should also just pop right out as well. Now that you have both the pads out, you can take a moment to put some contact cleaner or get some of this carbon fouling out. All right, put the holes in, or put the bolts in. You can put them through the first pad if you have to. and then put the second pad on after you have these bolts threaded through the first holes. You can see them coming in. And just put the second pad on. Just give it a little push on the pad, on the springs, and then the bolt should go all the way in. Good. Once the bolts are snapped in, just thread them all the way down with your 5mm Allen wrench. And tighten them down with the same amount of force that you had to break them off with. Awesome. Okay, now all you have to do, just carefully mount this onto the rotor. Put the brake pad, one on each side of the rotor, and just wiggle it in till it's in place. Now we can put those bolts, the retaining bolts, back on the brake caliper to hold them onto the bracket. Same goes for the other one. Snug these two bolts up now, and then we can tighten them up with a ratchet. Same with the other one. Make sure it's tight. All right, and now all you gotta do is test it. Spinning freely. And it stops on a dime, spins freely, stops. Perfect. And you are done, and you probably saved yourself at least $100.